Yeah, so my name is Andrew Tate. I am the Recreation Director, and I have been with NCFC Youth now for about 5 years. Um, Maybe with this year, it maybe adds another 5 years to my time with the club. It certainly has to the wrinkles and the grey hairs on my head. Um, but ultimately, this night is about you guys as our grassroots coaches, our volunteers. You have been very aptly named the coach of the season for your age group in a recreation or challenge. So obviously this is not the celebration that we would all hope to have, but it's something that we felt was necessary, and hopefully you'll enjoy this hour or so that we have with two very, very experienced and knowledgeable and fantastic people in Dave Sarachan and Paul Riley. But this night is about you, and we want to recognize your achievements, your accomplishments, and the appreciation of your parents in being the coach of the season. So one of the things, we had 24 coaches of the season, and hopefully majority of you are in the room tonight. You represent all the different age groups I can challenge from kindergarten up through high school. And you have some great kids and great families that are obviously very appreciative of your efforts. We've got coaches who have kids on the team. We have coaches who don't have kids on the teams. We have brothers who coach together. We've got head coaches and assistant coaches on this call. We've got coaches who, are running from their full-time jobs to practices and balancing all the demands of everyday life and everyday life this year. This past fall season has been very, very different. As you all know, we've got females coaching males, just like Coach Riley is with the Courage. And we've got males coaching females as well. So lots of, males coaching females, which is Paul. Sorry, Paul.
That's all right.
The Courage. And we've got females coaching males as well. So, I'm glad we could bring you all together. And I just wanted to say on behalf of myself, Brett, and the entire club, a huge thank you for everything that you've done this season. And this is not just to you, it's to all the grassroots coaches that we've had. We had, I think close to, I think, was it 250 nominations or something like that we had, submissions, 250 submissions from families. Obviously, you had the bulk of those, and that's why you're getting the opportunity to be here today. But we've always appreciated our volunteer coaches on an every season basis, every day, every hour, for everything that you do to go above and beyond for your players and your children. But this season, more so than ever before, I don't think we can say how thankful we are. The kids have needed it. The parents have needed that outlet, as we're all sitting behind computer screens and stuck in our houses. They've needed this outlet from a psychological, from a physical aspect, and I think from a social aspect as well, of getting out and being able to interact with other kids. None of us as adults could ever be able to relate to that. We've never gone through that as a child. So the things that you've done this season obviously are massively appreciated by the club. And as you can tell from your families as well, which I think means way more than any appreciation we can show. So the two special guests that we have on the call are Coach Dave, Coach Dave Sarachan, who is joining us from Omaha, Nebraska, in true Zoom conference style. He drove there from Carey. It took him, I think, 2 9-hour shifts, he said. I'm not quite sure what time of day it is in Omaha, Nebraska. So I don't know if he's better off or worse off than we are. But we greatly appreciate his time today, and I'll run through his CV for the next 30 minutes. The special guest that we have is Coach Paul Riley, who is joining us from Carey, but not for very long. When this call ends, he'll be driving up to Long Island, I think, to be with some family up there. So we greatly appreciate them taking time, as they've obviously got a very busy and crazy life like we all have, and for them to be here today is massively appreciated. So just kind of quickly I say quickly, I'm going to do my best to summarize their storied careers and accomplishments, of which there are many. And if I try to skim through them, it's not going to do them justice. But I'll start with Coach Paul Riley, as he coaches the females. So we'll start with the ladies first. And I did refer to him as a female coaching males, which is completely incorrect. So he's born in Liverpool, came to the US, attended Adelphi University in Manhattan, New York. Recorded a lot of points there, 121 points, 39 goals and 43 assists. He's in the Adelphi Hall of Fame as a player, and I believe still holds their assist record with 43 assists. So as a player, very accomplished, and probably paved the way for Englishmen like myself to come over here and get a scholarship and kind of ride their coattails. So fantastic playing career. Went on to play professionally in the northeast of the United States, most prominently for the Long Island Rough Riders. And he's their all-time leading assists holder of the record there. So I think that still stands to this day, as they're still going strong as an organization. While playing professionally in the northeast of the US, he was also coaching collegiately with CW Post, which is now known as Long Island University, I believe. So he was there from 91 to 97, got a Coach of the Year award there. And I think he was the New York conference as well there, coached 5 times in terms of the Coach of the Year there. He moved on to coach the Long Island Rough Riders, so coaching men as well, coaching them professionally, and he won a league championship there in 2002. He went on to coach the Philadelphia Independence, I think it was, and the Long Island Fury in the Women's Professional Soccer League, and he coached them to a championship in 2006 and 2009, earning him the Women's Professional Soccer League Coach of the Year award in 2009. They also won the Eastern Conference champions there 4 years in a row under his leadership, and he had an incredible record there with them. In 2010, 2011, the England native coached the Philadelphia Independence, like I said, to back-to-back championship game appearances. And then his 2 years with the team there. And he was also named Coach of the Year in 2010 and 2011. Since the Western New York Flash relocated to Cary in 2007, Riley has led the North Carolina Courage to 2 consecutive NWSL Shields, an ICC Championship, and an NWSL Championship. And he is no stranger to the NWSL Championship, having won it with the Western New York Flash in 2016. Before the Flash, he was the head coach of the Portland Thorns of the NWSL in 2014 and 2015. He's also won, I believe, the ICC Cup, which was the first time that was held here in this country, beating some fantastic teams along the way, with a lot of players missing in their absence due to international call-ups. So we greatly appreciate Coach Paul Riley taking time. Coach Sarachan equally has a very storied career. He's a veteran coach with an established track record, produced multiple championship moments in his storied career, and he's a veteran coach that's guided teams to impressive results at nearly every level in the United soccer system. He captured the MLS Supporters Shield and 2 Lamar Hunt Open Cup trophies as the head coach of the Chicago Fire. He also guided them to an MLS Cup final and an additional US Open Cup final. His monumental success in 2003 earned him MLS Coach of the Year honors. Before joining NCFC, the Rochester, New York native served as the US men's national team interim manager from November 17 to December 2018. And he's also helped while the US was trying to find the next general manager and head coach. While coaching the Stars and Stripes, he led them to some really good results against Portugal, who were the European champions at the time, where they tied 1-1, against eventual World Cup champions France, where they tied as well 1-1, and a 1-0 victory over regional rival Mexico on home soil in September 2018. He served a critical role in shaping the next generation of US soccer talent, effectively setting up the future of the federation, awarding 23 first caps to up-and-coming talents and laying the groundwork for future World Cup qualifying campaigns in 2022 and beyond. He's given first-time call-ups with Tyler Adams, Cameron Carter-Vickers, and Weston McKennie, just to name a few. He was a member of Bruce Arena's coaching tree and spent nearly 2 decades as an assistant and one of the most legendary coaches in the US soccer in Bruce Arena. He started at the University of Virginia and served as an assistant coach to Arena there. And he went on to win 2 ACC championships and make 4 NCAA tournament appearances with the Cavaliers. He joined Arena at DC United in '98, went on to capture a CONCACAF Champions League title. And following Arena's departure, Sarachan stayed on at DC United, helping them win the 1999 MLS Cup and Supporters Shield. In 2000, he took an assistant role with the men's national team under Arena's leadership. He remained with the team in 2002, playing a big role in the US, getting to the quarterfinals of the 2002 World Cup, the second best result of the US men's national team in the federation's history. He joined again with Bruce Arena in 2008 as an associate head coach with the Galaxy, won 3 MLS Cups and 2 Supporters Shields there, and very famously is still able to copy Robbie Keane's goal celebration at his tender age right here in Cary. His first head coaching job was at his alma mater at Cornell from 1998 to 97, And in his 15 wins, 2 losses and 1 defeat in 95, which included an Ivy League title, an NCAA tournament appearance, still stands as the best season in program history for Cornell. He's held assistant duties for the University of Rochester and assistant coach at Cornell. As a player, he earned junior college All-American status at Monroe College before transferring to Cornell, where he led the Big Red to an Ivy League title in 1997 and back-to-back tournament appearances. Following his coaching career, he played professionally. Following his college career, he played professionally for 7 seasons, splitting time with the Rochester Lancers, Pittsburgh Spirit, Buffalo Stallions, Baltimore Blast, and Kansas City Comets in the MISL. And I could go on for another 45 minutes, but I want to take.
That's because I'm old, Andy. That's because I'm old.
No, it's because you've got a lot to catalog, a lot of success, a lot of Coach of the Year honors. Hopefully, like these men and women on the call today, are going to continue to get many nominations and many awards in the future for all their accomplishments on and off the field. So anyway, now that we've talked about their CVs, let's, I guess, get to chat to them and let them do most of the talking now. I guess, Coach Dave, you're in Omaha. You've traveled the furthest to be here today. So I'm going to let you, I guess, on the back of a different Thanksgiving celebration, I think for many of us, I guess, what are you most thankful for and appreciative of being today, I guess?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. I always enjoy these opportunities. I also want to congratulate all the people that are on this call, those that didn't make it, that were nominated as coaches of their season, I believe. And, whether it's in a World Cup or at a college level or at a club level or, grassroots soccer is so important to set the foundation with young people. So I respect all of you for the time and effort that you put in. So I'm thankful that I'm part of a club that represents so many quality people, people that love the sport. I'm very thankful, obviously, for staying somewhat sane, healthy. I have a wonderful family that's done the same. So the traditional thank yous and thankfulness for that. But and I'm very lucky. You named. You spent time on Paul's resume and my resume, and so I'll let Paul speak for himself, but I think we'd both say that we're very fortunate to be able to do what we do and make a living at what we do. And I'm very thankful for that. I have a 95-year-old mother who tells always the story that, and my brother, who is an accomplished lawyer, when she introduces my brother Gary and myself, she always says, this is Gary, he's the oldest and he's been a lawyer, and there's David, he's the famous one. And it drives my brother crazy. I don't know if I'm famous, but I'm very fortunate that I can put shorts on and do somersaults like Robbie Keane for a living.
There you go.
It's not hard work. So that would be my 1 minute thankfulness.
Fantastic. Over to you, Paul.
Yeah, and I'd like to, first of all, congrats to everybody for helping with the club. And I think one big thing when I came to Carolina was the fact that the club was so massive and there's so many people involved and so many coaches involved. And I don't think a day goes by if I'm not walking into Panera to get a pickup or Starbucks to get a pickup, where I don't bump into somebody that's got a NCFC shirt on, sweatshirt on or something. So I think everyone appreciates what we do, and we're very lucky, and I'm totally thankful for this opportunity. Obviously to talk to you guys tonight, and thank you guys for what you've done for the youth around this area, but also the fact that I get to do this every day and we affect people's lives every day. And I think a lot of time you don't realize you affect their lives, and 10, 15 years later, you'll get a text. It used to be a letter in the old days, but now you get a text or an email saying, hey, listen, you were hard on me, but I really appreciate that. And it was a good time in my life, and I'll never forget those years. And I'm like, I think that's the emotional part of coaching, but a great part of coaching. And we always want to challenge ourselves as much as we can. And I remember when my first coaching job was in a deaf school. My mother was working in a deaf school, and I was 13 years old. And she said, would you mind come coach the deaf kids? And I said, yeah, no problem. And so I go, trying to teach them some skills, and idiot me didn't realize nobody could hear me, And so I realized that, it can't just be verbal. It can't be just voices. It needs to be other things, And I think the action they can see the action, they can see the passion. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. And I was only 13 at the time. And I refereed the games too, and I'd blow the whistle and nobody would stop, obviously. And somebody would wave on the sideline and everybody would stop. And it was just an amazing small experience in my life that set me up to realize that it takes a lot to be a coach. And I'm sure you guys have put a lot into these kids. It's not just on the field, it's keeping them on Zoom calls. And so, yeah, I'm thankful for a lot of things that we've been through. And just like Dave too, I've got a brother who's a biochemist, who's the smart one in the family. And in Liverpool, you either sing or you play football. My voice was terrible, so I got to play football, and my brother got to be the smart one in the family. So when we get introduced, Dave, he gets introduced as the smart one, and I get introduced, oh, it's Paul, the football guy, you know. So hey, it is what it is. But thanks again, guys, for having us, and really appreciate it, and thankful that you're all involved in the club, and look forward to meeting you at some point.
Fantastic. And one of the things we'll talk about, I think we'll kind of hopefully remind you at the end, is that we do want to try and find another way to get you guys to meet Coach Dave Sarachan and Coach Paul Riley in person, and maybe attend a training session or something in the future. So hopefully as things improve and get better, which I think we all have that hope and desire to see, we stay safe and do the right things, that hopefully we can get back to getting out to beautiful Wakemed Soccer Park and seeing these guys what they do best, and getting the opportunity to speak to them in person. So we hope to have the opportunity in the future. So I guess just we'll kind of Paul, stick with you a little bit. So can you think back to did your correct me if I'm wrong, did your season start, Paul? I know Dave's was one game in. Had your season started before the
No, we had 3 preseasons. So
okay,
we
3 preseasons.
3 preseasons, yeah. We started. Your favorite time 10 of days year. 10 days later we stopped, and then we started again, then we stopped, then we started again, then we stopped. Okay. Yeah, so a bit crazy, to be honest with you. I mean, we used to 1 preseason, and to have 3 preseasons. I think that was one of the biggest challenges of the year, was to have 3 preseasons. And the third one, I said to the players, we have to do something different. And so for the third one, we actually changed formation, only because we wanted to do something different. We did individual programs, which we really don't do at this level. And we just did things just totally different than we normally would, And during those gaps between the preseasons, I took a couple of players onto a turf field, and we cut 40 videos, and we sent them out to the players, 4 or 5 every week. So the players had video, but I want to thank those 2 players for helping us, Ryan Williams and Kerry Recaro. So they came out, and the weather was terrible, and we videotaped all these individual, or basically in 2s, so we could send it to all the players, because they had to work with their roommates at the time, obviously because of the pandemic. Yeah. So they worked with their roommates, and we sent everything out, and it was a lot of fun. And now we've got all those 40 videos to share with anybody that wants them, But it was good, and I think they're the type of things that we had no choice but to do. But listen, there was no book to read on this one. I found the Zoom calls were great at the time when we first started out, and then eventually the players wanted to train. Then we got to train a little bit, and then we got back to playing some games, which we did in Utah. We were obviously hidden away in Utah in a bubble for 6 weeks, which was difficult. And I think the players went through a lot mentally, physically. It was a tough time. And when we came back, a lot of them decided to opt out the second part of the season. And so I'm fine with that. And we put a lot of players on loan. I felt that 2021 was the most important part, looking forward to 2021. And the games were basically friendly games from that point onwards. So I felt it was important. They all went. So a lot of them went away to Manchester City, to Brighton, to Sweden. So quite a lot of them went all over the world, and we just let them go, thinking that 2021 would be more important. And hopefully it will be. And hopefully, I didn't want to waste a year of development, to be perfectly honest with you. They're way too young to waste development. And so I think it was important. And the players we kept, we did, obviously we changed formation, we did individual programs with them, and they got to play. And these players haven't played that much over the last 2-3 years, and they've been with us quite a bit. And there's some great bright spots with some of the younger players that came through and got opportunities that maybe they wouldn't have got. So there's always a silver lining to everything you do, and that was my silver lining for me. There's some great players come out of this, and some with opportunities maybe down the road to play for the national team. And that was all because of the pandemic. They might never have got that opportunity. So there's always a silver lining somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's great to see a lot of the US women now playing over in England or wherever. Getting up, like you said, opportunities here for younger players coming out of college, and opportunities for these players that maybe wouldn't have left the US to sample something different. So that's great. Coach Dave, I remember I actually was there at that game against was it Louisville?
Louisville.
Yeah. I was there. So I was there with my 2 kids, sitting in the stands, eating Dippin' Dots or whatever. Sunny day, beautiful day at Wakemed Soccer Park. Great opportunity to take in some live football. Could have been a very different result, but I guess, can you think back to that game and your preseason before everything turned a little crazy?
Yeah, it does seem like years ago. It's crazy, but yeah, we started in early February with our preseason, and thought it actually was a good preseason. We brought in some new, fresh faces. We returned a good core of players. Did our training and preparation for March 7th, which was against Louisville, which is quite a good program, obviously, over the last few years. And you were at the game. You said it was a beautiful day that day, March 7th. We lost 1-0 on a kind of a fluky goal that I still think may have been offside, but had a good performance and felt good about the start. And then 3 days later, the rug got pulled out, from under us. COVID hit, and there was 4 months that we were idle. And like Paul and all the coaches, we had to wing it. We had to wing it by keeping our players engaged, keeping good communication with them on the soccer side, but on the mental side, they are fortunate that many of them were in the same sort of apartment complex. But it wasn't easy to go 4 months, and then individual training began, and we started to do that as well. And unlike Paul, we didn't have a bubble. USL decided to manufacture a season, which I give them credit. Everybody was very skeptical of it, and they put us in a group of we were one of 3 other teams, 4 teams in a group. Turned out to be a difficult group, and the challenge there was we had to count our Louisville game, so that gave us 15 matches, and we played each of the teams in our group. It was Memphis, Birmingham, and I'm going brain dead on the third team. Who was it? And yeah, sure, yeah, of course, they beat us every time. Charlotte, that's why I forgot. It was mental. But we had to play each team 4 times, which is really a difficult task. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I was very proud of my guys. This was what I would call an asterisk year. It's very difficult to sit back and truly evaluate, other than the fact that we had a phenomenal group of guys that mentally hung in there with all the things they dealt with, not only with COVID, but with Black Lives Matter and the political landscape. And I could go on and on. And yet when they showed up, when training began, they were all in. They enjoyed their football. They enjoyed the training. Our staff did a great job of keeping them engaged. And, we didn't lift a trophy at the end of this year, but it wasn't so much about that. It was learning about each other and how to deal with something that no one's ever dealt with before. And I was very impressed with how they handled all that.
Yeah, so you both got that in common. Sadly, besides, obviously you've got lots of championships and Coach of the Year honors on both your resumes. Neither one of you, I think, and the season didn't go the way you wanted it to, or where anyone wanted it to go. But it didn't end in the fashion that we would all hope, that both of you are picking up championships. So I guess, what were your key takeaways from the season? Obviously, like what you've endured. We'll go to you, Paul, first. What were your key takeaways from the season and how it transpired and how it was done? I guess moving forward, what will you look back on? And
I think since we've been in Cary, the team's obviously been pretty successful. So for me, it was, what are we like in times of struggle? And we haven't really struggled since we got here, so it was nice for us to struggle a little bit. And, it's not about the result. We talk about that a lot. It's more about the performance. So I think those 2 things, we still nail about the performance. That's the most important part for me, and not the result. And I think that became more apparent this year too. And without losing competitiveness in practice, I think I say to all the players all the time, pressure is a privilege. And we've had a lot of pressure the last 3 years to repeat, to do it again and do it again. And I think there was a lot less pressure this year. And I think the players have got used to that type of pressure. So from that perspective, we could work on different parts of the game that I didn't anticipate, to be honest with you, at the beginning of the year, that we'd be able to do these type of things. And changing formation was great. We always spoke about it. And we play a 4-4-2 box, and we wanted to change, and went to a back 3, and took us a long time to get it. And right before we were about to play our first game, 3 players opted out who were in that. 2 of which were in the back 3. And you know what we said? Well, we've been working on it for 4 or 5 weeks. Let's just go with it and see what happens. And, we got beaten pretty badly by Houston down in Houston, but we kept with it. We kept the formation, and I think it was a great learning tool for us to go somewhere else and take some chances and take the challenge. And I think the players really enjoyed it. And now you feel like this year coming in that, we'd be able to go to a different formation. They feel comfortable with it. And I've been trying to change formation for a little bit, but it's tough. The players like to, when they win, they like to keep that same formation. And it's, people are starting to figure it out, and there's great coaches in this country and they figure it out, and then you're in trouble. But I think the biggest takeaway for me is, who are we in the times of struggle? And we had some struggle this year, no question. And I think the staff was amazing. And they struggled with the change of formation. We had to work together. We had a lot of extra hours, a lot of extra work hours with technology and stuff, but they did it. And I can't thank them enough for what they did and what they put into the players, because it was more individualized, which meant a lot more work. And I actually enjoyed the season. It was a lot different, but it was certainly enjoyable. And you're only away from them for a month and a half. And it's like, well, it feels like 2 years already. I got to be honest with you. I can't wait to put the cones down and get back on the park again.
Yeah.
I guess
Well, I would say, 2019 was my first season here. And we had a 34-game season, made the playoffs. It was a great learning, despite my background in coaching in many different levels, you're still learning all the time when you have a group of players. And in 2019, I was very pleased with the progression and moving it forward. And then in 2020, we kept a good core of players and added players that I felt were going to be impactful for us in 2020. And unfortunately, because of what we talked about already with the stop-start, the gap, the shortened season, playing teams, each team 4 times, it's just a really difficult one to evaluate. But having said that, where we did fall short was in the final third. We didn't do well in front of goal. We had some guys that we had brought in that I thought were going to perform a little bit better, and it was difficult for us in that regard. I thought, defensively, in goal, our back line, we still made it pretty hard on teams. But as all of you guys know, if you can't put the ball in the back of the net, it's hard to accumulate a lot of wins. But I do feel the work, the effort, the day-to-day, the culture of the group, the mentality of the group, despite all the distractions, was fantastic. And, I never came away from any of my games where I felt they just mailed it in. They just fell a little short. And so, like I said, it's a little bit of a difficult one to fully evaluate, but you do the best you can by doing that and planning for 2021.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's one of the things I think we can most of these coaches I think on the call can relate to, is they had a shutdown in the spring. Sadly, we weren't able to resume the spring season, so they may have had a week or two, or I think we got first couple of game weekends in, and then their season was done and they didn't see those kids again. Now, many of the coaches here have built relationships, really strong relationships with their players, with their families. And I know many of them on this call today will have kept tabs and found ways to keep in touch the same way you guys did with your players. And I think that's a testament and speaks volumes to the type of people and the relationships they've built with their players. So without any further ado, I'd like to sort of kind of get to some of the questions that were pre-submitted. For those of you that didn't get the chance to pre-submit or couldn't think of a question then, but have one, please go ahead and use the raise your hand feature. And as we get through some of these questions, I'll turn it over to you to ask them in person here on the call. So the first question I have is from Neil Austin. He is the coach of the Carey Blizzards, and was the first grade recreation coach of the year. First grade being U7, so 6 and 7 year olds. But I think you can talk to more of the environment and that type of stuff. So Dave, I'll go to you with this one because you were smiling. I think Paul might take some notes.
Well, I think he's the Buffalo Blizzard guy, so he's got to go to.
How do you keep training exciting and engaging for your players?
Well, first of all, it's Neil that asked that question.
Yeah,
congratulations, because I'm in Omaha with my grandson and daughter who are 4 and 2. So you're working with 6 and 7 year olds.
Yeah, they're really scary.
Yeah, no, look, I give you all the credit in the world. That I think what you do with them is not that much different with what I would do with a team. And Paul, from the standpoint of variety, enjoyment, mixing it up, being creative, we have a long season to keep things fresh. And I heard Paul allude to the fact that in one of his preseasons, he had to mix it up. That is the challenge, to not just mail it in each day, to challenge them in a certain way where they're getting soccer, they're also enjoying it. And my barometer of, I've often used this example that if I left the field under the training session if I was a player under me, would I have enjoyed that day, right? And it takes, and especially with your age group, with the attention span and all the rest. So it's being able to be flexible, have variety, show passion. And sometimes it's not even about soccer. It could be a tag. It could be, horse. It could be whatever. So it's not that much different at our level. Only, if we don't win, we get fired. You won't get fired, I don't think. But no, keep it fresh and enjoy.
Paul, anything you'd like to add to that? How do you?
It's
exciting and engaging.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I think from a coaching perspective, the more we're invested, the more it means to us. I'm a big believer in that. The more we put into it, the more we get out. And I'm sure coaching that age group, and I have coached that age group not too long ago. I helped with our club back in New York for a long, long time. And it's certainly amazing. And the bigger issue is controlling the parents. The kids are amazing, But I would say that one for me is, I think creativity is definitely something. And, you can look up a lot more stuff now and find out a lot more stuff online than you used to be able to. And I think you should use everything you can to find drills, to find things that you like. And what I noticed when I was a player is there was coaches I just didn't like. I didn't like what they did. They were just runners, or they did this, that. So I took all the good points from all the coaches I had and tried to give myself, what I would like to do and my philosophy. And a lot of it came down to creating sessions that I would love. And similar to what Dave just said, I want to really enjoy the session. I want to be buzzing for it because, we're the ones who've got to create the emotion, the excitement. And if we're not up for it, we don't think it's a great session. That's hard to sell. And, I think coaching 6, 7-year-olds and 7, 8-year-olds, and even up to probably 10-year-olds, and even up to 16-year-olds, even up to, 34-year-olds, it's all the same. And as long as you just got to get to them, you got to find a way to listen. Not all players are the same. And I always tell the players, never compare yourself to the player. Always compare yourself to yourself and improving your performance and improving what you can do. And, if it's 3 juggles, next week it's 4. And that's what it's all about for me. It's not about comparing left backs with left backs.
Yeah, great stuff, boys. So I guess there's a double whammy question. I think it's very, very similar. So I'm going to kind of tie it together. Brad, I cannot say your last name. So I don't know if you want to pronounce it for us. Brad is the coach of the NCFC Revolution and our U10 Challenge Coach of the season. Brad, how do you say your last name?
Verbert.
Okay, there you go. Do you remember your question, Brad?
Yeah.
Do you want to ask the guys?
Yeah, it's basically with the players you coach now. If you could go back, for me, it's like when they're U10, is there anything you would have done differently, or there's abilities, skill sets on your players now that you say, hey, I wish they would have worked on this more when they were younger?
Wow. Okay.
Go on, Paul. Go on.
Go ahead, Paul. I went first last time. You go first.
You don't have to name names, Paul. You don't have to name names.
Yeah,
more of a generalization, I think.
It's a variety question for me. I have a player that just made the US national team, just played 90 minutes last week, and the technical aspect of a game is deficient, and that's come from the youth end of it. And she'll be the first to tell you. She's had to really work hard on basic stuff as she's got older. And obviously you want that to be taken care of at a young age, but she spends a lot of time, extra time, taking care of the technical part because it just wasn't taken care of when she was a young player. And, she's a super athlete, scores goals, and but it's been a hard slog for her. And, she never anticipated that she would end up on the US national team, which she has. And now she's playing catch up, and we do a lot of extra stuff with her to play it. But I think you have to treat, I think I probably mentioned before, individually every player and know what the weaknesses or strengths are and try and improve them. But there's certainly, I look back at I think by the time they get to college, it's too late. Probably by the time they get to 16, in a lot of aspects, it's too late. But certain other developments happen after 16. But I would think from a skill set perspective, you need to do that prior to those age groups. But yeah, when you've got a technical player, when you look at a player like Dabinha, the Brazilian that we have, her technical ability is so good and so high that it's just a matter of tactical end of it. We're trying to improve her game. Maybe she's a little bit quicker. Maybe she shoots a little bit better. Maybe she crosses a little bit better. Maybe she receives a little bit easier. But the technical ability is so sharp and so good that you wish all the Americans could be like Dabinha. But she played in the street. She played with no shoes on in the street, and that's how she learned. And she's a hell of a player. And I wish we could have more of that street type format in the youth programs, and not easy to say, not easy to do. But I think, especially in this pandemic, I've seen a lot of fathers kicking balls around with their kids, and all that little stuff is so important. I remember I used to bang the ball against the wall back home, and TV was on the other side of the wall. My father would just boom, boom, boom. And he didn't tell me till I was like 35. And he said, Paul, they used to drive me up the wall. And he said, but every night you were kicking that goddamn thing against the wall. And he used to drive me up the wall. But he let me do it because he wanted me to get better. And that's how I learned to receive balls and, juggle against the walls, and just simple things like that I think, if the kids love the game, they'll do. And so loving the game is probably the most important part. I'm not sure I answered the question actually, Brad, but congratulations too on everything.
Go on, Dave.
With my players, so much is the environment that you've been brought up in. A lot of my players, when they're technically pretty good, some are better than others. I would answer this in a general sense to all of you that coach youth players, and that is, and Paul, I think, alluded to it. You can't get enough of the technical work. And same with me when I grew up. I had bushes in front of my house. I used to dribble in and out of the bush. It's very difficult for a young girl or boy to just go out on their own. But I wouldn't get caught up at that young age in terms of positioning or tactics or any of that. I think that the most important thing is the relationship with the ball. The game, I had a great mentor named Manfred Schelscheit, who's a Northeast guy, and Paul probably knows Manfred.
Yeah.
Anyone from the Northeast does. And his famous saying was, the game is the best teacher. For them to go out and play 1-on-1, 2-on-2, and learn every day, have touches on the ball every day. Many of some of my players, not all of them, but some of my players sort of skipped steps, and it wasn't their fault because they were the fastest or they were the biggest at age 10. And coaches would overlook the details and the fundamentals. They just let them run and outrun everyone. But now, 4 or 5 years later, they've missed steps A, B, C, and D, you see? And so don't get caught up in that, the physical sense. That's not important. Sure, speed is great, and at our level, speed and power and strength. But for you, the youth, if I could dial it back for all of the players I have now, did you touch the ball enough? Did you have a relationship with the ball enough? Were you creative on your own? Did you challenge yourself every day? And in a fun environment, yeah? So that would be a couple thoughts from my end on that.
Yeah, great stuff. I guess, Paul, there's a question here that I think sort of relates. I had a question as you were talking there as well. Was obviously you were talking about the technical aspect of it, and I think you mentioned about in terms of the environment that you'd want these coaches to create and having that passion and what have you, and building that love of the game. How much do you put back to the player that you're talking about in question? The lack of technical ability. How much do you put that on her coaches in terms of maybe did the kid not have the love of the game? Was she not working on her own? You talk about yourself kind of playing, hitting the ball against the wall and driving your dad crazy. I guess did she love it as a kid and just didn't get the coaching, or was it something she just wasn't doing on her own? She wasn't doing the banging against the ball. She wasn't doing the street soccer.
I think
see it as something altogether, like Dave talked about, like the environment and your culture too.
Yeah, I think her problem, and Dave actually alluded to it too, is that she's just too quick. She's the fastest player in the country. Easy. They just timed it faster than Mbappe, who plays for PSG. So that's how fast she is. And I think, again, like David said, it's easy when she's fast, knock it over the top, and she'll get it. And but like she did miss those steps, and I think Dave alluded to that. And I think she missed a few steps along the way. And she never played for a big college, which wasn't an issue for me when we drafted her. She never played in a big club, which wasn't an issue for me either. But there certainly were steps. And she comes from an athletic family, and she could have been an Olympic sprinter. She could have done the triple jump. She could have done the hurdles. I mean, literally any Olympic sport you could probably mention, she could have done. So soccer wasn't something that she was super in love with till about 13, 14. Well, there's a few steps missed along the way to get to 13 and 14. And I tell her all the time about loving the grind, and being fueled by the challenge. And I think she understands that now, and she puts so much into it, and she is fueled by the grind. That's what gets her going every day. And now she wants to work on her feet all the time, both feet, which she's improved dramatically, honestly, over the 3-4 years she's been here. But at the end of the day, people talk about the process being the most important part, and it is. All those pieces of that are important. All the rungs on the ladder are important. You step by step getting to the top of the ladder, but if you miss one rung, you fall to the bottom. So each step is really important. And to all the coaches out there, the stepping stones are valuable. Every stepping stone. So make sure you cover them. Make sure you give them those stepping stones, and I think they'll remember that. And if Lynn Williams had those stepping stones, I've just given it away now. If Lynn Williams had those stepping stones, she might have been on the national team prior to 27 years old. Maybe she would have been there at 22, 23, and instead of 27. But she's there now, and she will play in the Olympics, and she'll play in the next World Cup, probably the following Olympics. So, she's made it, but she knows what she needs. And if you could only watch her train, and hopefully everybody on this course someday will be able to see them train, you'll go, oh my God, look at this player. I mean, what she puts into it, and the grind. She loves the grind, and you got to love it if you want to get better.
Awesome. Dave, so the question sort of related, I think, tying off that was, and you can maybe speak to some of your experiences with some of the great players that you've worked with, is how much do you think sort of the foot skill, the technical ability is learned versus sort of natural ability?
Wow, that's I think I think it's I don't think I can give you the answer. I don't know if I have the answer, to be honest. I think when you look at the great U.S. players, I'll refer to them: the Landon Donovans, Christian Pulisic now. Tyler Adams, I could go on. I think many of them have a natural athletic ability, but coupled with a passion to play, the desire, the competitiveness, and the ability to hone that skill over time. So Landon was one guy, Christian, and then there's I had the great fortune of coaching big players with the LA Galaxy, and a guy like Beckham, people ask me what it was like with him, and the thing about Beckham was he loved to train. He hits free kicks unbelievably because he used to do it all the time. He trained at it. Was he born that way, or did that develop through his work? I can't answer that, but I would always default to the amount of time and effort you put into it, coupled with that natural ability, generally turns out to be something special. So the great ones, didn't do it without work. And I think there are some that are more gifted athletically, and maybe it comes a little easier. So I don't have a real answer to that, other than the foundation with it all is the ability to spend time doing it.
Brilliant. We're going to shift to Theo, Coach Theo. Where is he? He keeps moving around. So Theo's always got a great background whenever I see him. Theo did a great job this season. I'm trying to think, was he coaching? Theo was coaching the 5th grade boys. He did not have a player on the team, so he's one of our real golden gooses, going above and beyond, and a gentleman that we've relied on a lot to kind of bounce things off. Theo had a lot of questions, so I'm going to let you talk, Theo, and you can I'll give you 2 questions, Theo, because you had some really good ones. But I'll let you ask 2 questions of the guys here.
Okay, it's to either or both, and one of them is related to, if you think of the soccer community and what goes on within a community, and you know, Paul, you mentioned, you know, you're at the Starbucks and you see somebody with an NCFC or a Courage jersey. So I'm just curious, you know, when you compare Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, this triangle area to where you've been before, and I'm just, you know, I'm interested in how we compare to others. And it's, you know, you don't, it's like many things, you don't know how you're doing, right? You don't know how your community is. And, but because you two have been in many other places, you could give us some perspective of what we're doing here, and then what else we should be doing. Like, what are the best practices we could be doing also?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, it's the biggest club in the country. I think there's 15,000 players in it. So from that perspective, I've never seen a club even close to this. I had my own club in New York with, you know, 2,000 players in it. So the size is just something that I find incredible. And my assistant coach, who also works, my assistant goalkeeping coach, is also one of the coaches at the club. And he has 300 goalkeepers to look over. And I can't imagine that. It blows my mind to see that there's 300 goalkeepers in this club. But the club's really well prepared. I mean, you know, I have Sean too, Sean Nahas, who's with me too, and he's also works in the club on the girls' side. And I listen to them a lot. They talk about the youth program a lot here and how important it is. And there's so many different levels and so many different coaches. And no, I would like to do more from a coach's corner perspective, where we could meet and talk coaches like this and have a conversation and discuss parts of the game, discuss parts of what you guys want. And I think this is something we can do down the road, but we're far ahead of a lot of other clubs. I mean, I know in Long Island, there's 98 clubs in Long Island. At least here, everyone's been brought to one club almost, all the better players. So the competitiveness of practice is better. And I think they're mission driven, not goal driven. And I see a lot of clubs around this country that's completely goal driven. It's all about, you know, the destination, not about the journey. And to me, it's about the destination and the mission and trying to get better and incremental improvements every day. And I think if you can get that to all your teams, which is what I think we're trying to do here in the club, then that's you've got to take your hat off to that. But we're in an amazing position here. It's an amazing soccer area with great facilities. The facilities, no one else in the country has these type of facilities. So I think we're blessed, and we probably don't realize that we're so blessed. But I've coached in Buffalo and Philadelphia and Portland and all over the place, and there's nothing like this club and everything they've got. And so I'm excited to see where it goes. And they're going to bring a homegrown rule into our league, which means the players that have come through the system belong to us. And I think that makes it even more important from a perspective of what we do with the young players, and to see this club build and get even better and better and get more facilities and just keep pushing along. But we're in a great position, honestly, compared to a lot of the other clubs that I've seen.
Yeah, real quick for me, Theo, you know, when I took this position in 2019, that was one of the attractive parts to me. You know, I'm a little older, I've been through a lot, and, you know, the ability to be with a club of this size. And your question is a good one, because, you know, I've known people from different parts of the country that live in their own little bubble, and they're not even sure what goes on. They think their bubble's got it all figured out. But I would tell you, very rich soccer community here in the Triangle. The club, like Paul alluded to, it's probably the biggest in the country. But not only that, I think the quality of the people like yourself and the staffs and that are dealing with the club is equal to that. So I think it's very rich, very good, and it's got a lot of potential to be even better.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm going to go to Stephen McCall, who's our under 16 challenge coach of the year. Stephen, I believe coach is female. So Stephen, do you want to ask this question to Paul? Okay. Hold on. You able to unmute, Stephen?
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, I just wanted to know what you guys would think were the biggest differences between coaching girls and women and boys, men. And that's just
Well, I'll start because I've never coached women. But what I would say, and Paul is you know, he's the Alex Ferguson of the women, so I'll let Paul spend more time on this. But what I would say to answer that is, whether it's boys, girls, men, women, for me, the relationships that you create to build trust, whether it's female or male, I don't think that matters. to be able to get the most out of that individual is so paramount to putting a group together. So it's more about people than players in many ways. At least I feel that way at my level, but I also think at all your levels, if you build a relationship with the players and in return, now there's some trust, now you can make some progress. So for me, I don't know if to me, it's not a gender issue in that regard. From the physical and technical side, again, I'll let the expert speak to his experience with women, but the ball doesn't discriminate. The ball is the same for a girl or a guy. But
no, I was just trying to see if there was a kind of a fundamental difference between the two, apart from the physical side. The way you approach coaching girls.
I mean,
boys.
I've coached boys, men, and women, the college, youth, and obviously now women professionally. And I always say to all of them, the difference for me is that female players are so good at the tactical stuff. In other words, if you say X and Y, they do X and Y. And that's just the way they are, And I've coached men, and on the men's side, sometimes they'll do it on their own. I don't know if Dave would agree with me on this one, but that's the one they would definitely do it on their own. And I think that's a fundamental difference between them. But at the end of the day, I say to all the players, whether male or female, the threshold is what you want it to be for any player, any part of the time. And don't mistake commitment for being there 4 or 5 days a week, because that's not commitment for me. So I don't do anything different with the females that I do with the males at all, in any capacity, not from a training perspective, not from a off the field perspective, not from the meeting, locker room, video, anything perspective. To me, it's the same thing. They're professional. They step over the line. It's the same thing for me. And I have no rules on my team at all. So it's funny, when I was a younger coach, I had a lot of rules, and they never worked because everybody did whatever they wanted to. And so I decided about 20 years ago to have no rules, and I've had no rules for about 20 years, and it certainly works really well with the team I have now. And I think they appreciate that. And I think you empower leadership. And first thing I did when I met the group was look for 3 or 4 leaders in the group, which we did in Buffalo. I found the Jess McDonalds and the Abby Erzigs, and I said, okay, these are the people I'm going to lean on. These are the people who are going to send the message, and they're going to bring the message back, and I'm going to empower them to be the leaders. And I think when I was a younger coach, I didn't empower anybody. It was my way or the highway. And I think that was a huge mistake for me. And I've learned that, you need people, you need these leaders on the team, because they generate everything. They police the team. They do everything for the team. And when something's an issue, they bring it to you, and you try to, rectify the issue. But from a training perspective, I'll agree with Dave. It's completely the same thing. And, I could take probably 5 of Dave's players and throw them into a practice. He could take 5 of mine, throw them into the practice, and I don't think you'd miss a beat,
I'll take Lynn right now, actually. we missed that in our team.
Dave, it's fine. She's only about 1.5 million. That's
no problem. No problem.
Fee.
Will you take cash, or is that a check?
Only cash.
Okay,
just cash.
Fair enough.
So we're getting to the sort of back end of this today. But I wanted to kind of touch on this. We did Zoom calls with both Coach Dave Sarachan and Coach Paul Riley. They very kindly took time out of their schedules during I would say the peak of it, when we were really doing nothing. So I'd encourage you, if you hadn't had a chance to jump on that call or go into Playmetrics and see, there's some great Zoom calls in there with some fantastic people, and certainly no more fantastic than these two. So I'd encourage you to go into Playmetrics and find those. There's a lot of great conversations and things that questions that you maybe not asked today that you can maybe get answered by watching that. So I encourage you to do that. My last little piece I'm going to look at now, I think is a great chance for you to pass on your pearls of wisdom. You've certainly got many more years of coaching left in both your boots, but I wanted to share something here. Hold on one second. There we go. Can everyone see my screen?
Oh my goodness.
All right. So.
Oh my goodness. That you didn't
Dave,
tell me you were going to show that.
Hey Dave, that's public knowledge. That is on the NCFC. That's on your resume page of the NCFC.
Oh boy.
There you go. You'll have to have a chat with those guys.
But
the question for this young Dave Sarachan here is, what would you go back and tell this young man in terms of coaching? What did this guy need to know maybe sooner rather than later?
Well, for sure, get a haircut, but that was an obvious one. You know, back at when I was that age, I had it in my head that I was going to be a soccer player when I finished it. Even after college, I had a chance to be a professional. As a young player, I probably would have told myself, you know, to challenge yourself more in an environment in the town I grew up in. You know, there were some clubs that I could have been a part of. We had German-American, very ethnic clubs back in those days, German-American clubs and Italian-American clubs. And there was a time where I could have joined a very competitive club, and I sort of took it a little bit easy. So I would probably say, Dave, make sure that you continue to enjoy your football, play in a club that's going to challenge you more, study a little bit more of the things you loved in college instead of just skipping out and getting to the playing field, and really just absorb the game even more than you did. You know, nowadays players have a lot of opportunities to watch football and soccer. And back in the day, I didn't. So I couldn't tell myself to watch more because we didn't have it. And do something about that hair.
I think you look great. That's a great picture from World War One.
Cheers, appreciate it.
Yeah, only you can
I
say
shouldn't
that,
laugh.
Paul, I'm afraid.
I'm sure mine's coming next, Dave.
Yeah,
Oh, it
Paul,
is,
yeah,
it is.
you're not getting off that easy, Paul. I had to dig a lot deeper for yours.
Yeah.
It wasn't readily available on the Courage website, so I don't know why.
Thank heavens for that.
Yeah, but Paul, I guess before I flick to the question, I really want to ask you. Obviously, hopefully the folks on this call, you know, they're not going to be kind of COVID-19 season wonders, and they're going to go off into the sunset now. Or as I'm getting many responses now to, are you going to coach in the spring? They're sort of like, I think I'm just going to sit back on and spectate this season now after going through the craziness of this fall. I want to watch now rather than coach. But hopefully the golden gooses, like I said on this call, are going to continue to give to the players and share their positive experience and what have you. So I guess if you could help us, Paul,
Oh God,
with this young stud, you know, what
boy
would this
band?
the sixth Beatle? Here we go.
Yeah, seriously.
It's very Ringo look. Yeah, very Ringo look there.
Hey, listen, guys, my mother and father, I was born in the 60s. My mother and father lived in Liverpool. So my brother was called John. So I was called Paul. The dogs were called Ringo. And the other one was called George. So, I mean, what chance did we have, you know? But I would, the main thing for me, I think, is that I was always about the destination. And now I've realized that it's about the journey and the mission, and it's not about the destination, because, you know, I always wanted to get there. I got to get to the final. I want to get to the final. I want to be at Wembley. I want to be this. I want to be that. And it was always, and I missed a lot along the way in the journey. I think when I was playing, that I wish I could get back, that I can't get back. So I'd say even to the coaches to look for that, because it is about the mission. It's not about setting goals. It's about enjoying every day and trying to improve every day. And I think I was too busy trying to get to the final and trying to win the final. And yeah, you know, at the end of the day, you talk about standards of performance and training and games, but, you know, it's all about the daily routine with the players. It's all about, you know, how you affect these players and what you get out of the players. And I had some great coaches along the way. I had some great examples along the way. I also had some guys that, you know, weren't great coaches for me, weren't great examples, but I think we all strive to be the best we can be. And I would say the most important part is enjoy the journey, and it's about the mission. It's not about the end story, and it's not about the destination. And because this player that you're coaching now will go on to other coaches, and I think it's important that you realize that they need a lot of voices to get better. We're not just the one and only voice in soccer. We need everybody, and all those different age groups that they'll go up, they'll learn from everybody. And as long as we do our job at whatever age group we're at, I think they'll remember this, and they'll remember the great times that we had. And it doesn't matter if it's ice cream or pizza or whatever it is that you're doing. It's all important. It's all an important part of it. And yeah, that's it for me.
I think that's a fantastic way to sort of round things up today. I think it is about the journey, and I completely agree with that, Paul. I think we're all competitors. We don't play soccer to lose, right? We go out there, we want to win. but it's the journey, it's the experience, it's the highs, the lows, the crazy things that happen. Like for Neil with his first grade team, and a bunch of the guys with the different ages and challenges that come about. And this season, as Dave touched on, the political things that have been brought into soccer. I think many of us got into soccer because we're not good at politics and we wanted to stay as far away from that as possible. And sadly, that's become a part of what we do, and something obviously we want to stay focused on what it's all about. And you guys have done a fantastic job this season as volunteer coaches in making it about the experience, making it about the journey, and it's been recognized by your families. And we can't thank you enough for that. We can't thank Dave and Paul enough for your time today. Paul, hopefully we haven't kept you too long and you've still got some energy left to get on the road and drive safely, stay safe. Paul's driving up to Long Island, and Dave's got a long drive back when he decides to come back this way, and hopefully he'll get to play, if he hasn't already, get to play on Pinehurst, because I know it's something that he was dying to do here in the area. So,
Yeah, I still got to get out there.
come on, Dave. Come on.
Yeah, I'll get there. I'll get there.
But anyway, final congratulations from me and all the staff at NCFC Youth. Like we said, we hope 2021 hopefully is a better year for everybody. Hopefully we can get fans back to beautiful Wake Med Soccer Park and cheer on the Courage and NCFC to the titles and get them back here in North Carolina where they belong. So big thanks, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed the call, and we thank you, and we hope to see you again on the soccer fields in 2021.
Thanks, Andrew.
Congratulations, everybody. Great job.
Yeah,
Cheers, guys. Take
congrats,
care.
everyone. Hope to see you in the new year at the games, guys. Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Yep. In person. We'll see you in person.
In person, yeah. It'll be great. Thanks,
Take
guys.
care. Thank you.
Happy holidays to everybody.